Diablo 4 was finally announced at BlizzCon and it looks and plays really well. I was able to check out the demo multiple times, tried out all the different classes, including the returning Druid class. I want to tell you my impressions in this video and share a lot of info that I got out of the interviews I did and also the panel. There is of course more going on with Blizzard and I don't agree with the way they handled the Blitzchung situation and the ban on the casters, but also feel that the developers did not have anything to do with the decisions that were made. So I still want to do a video on this game in a franchise that I really like, and I really got a ton of info that I just want to share with you. So let's get into it. It would be awesome if you could leave a like on the video as it shows your support, and let's go. One of the interesting things about Diablo 4 is that they're making it more of an open world game, where you first had this linear path. In Diablo 4, you have 5 regions that you should be able to explore whenever you want. There are still areas that are for higher levels, and Blizzard is still working things out, but overall the idea is that you should be free to go anywhere. And also in terms of activities, like do you want to follow the story or do you want to hop into a portal and play a randomly generated dungeon? There are also many events that trigger in the more open spaces. You got small ones, like where an NPC is getting attacked by enemies and you get a reward for helping them. One time I had to defend a village with survivors from waves of enemies, and the other time I was destroying a special altar, after which I got a nice buff that gave me more money. There are also bigger events though, like big world bosses, but those trigger for example every hour. Like if you go to the spawn location, you will see a countdown timer for when it will begin. And this is based on the real world time, meaning that this big boss spawns for everyone at the exact same time, so then you can all go to this boss and take it out together. You can of course form a party and play with your friends, but also while just exploring the world, you will see other people walk around. Don't expect this to be an MMO, like the amount of players you see in one region can be just 8 or a little more. It kinda depends on the size of the map. And you will only be able to encounter other players in the more open spaces, and almost 50% of the time in Diablo 4 you are in more instanced areas. So every time you go into a portal and do a dungeon, or you have like a big story moment inside a cave, then it will just be you alone or with the people in your party. While if you travel through the more open areas, you can totally encounter other players, or like in villages or cities. Although there does not seem to be one central hub in the game, at least right now. You can trade with these random players you encounter, group up, but also battle against them. Like PvP is still in the early stages of development, but how it will work is that there are PvP enabled worlds and that you could choose to participate in PvP if you want or not. Again, no more details were really shared, but they're using the knowledge they have from other franchises to try and make it worthwhile. I already found some legendary gear that gave me reduced damage from attacks from players, so you can totally make a more PvP build if that is what you want. And overall the loot is of course the reason to play Diablo, at least why I play this game. It was raining legendaries in the demo. They of course did that on purpose so you could like toy around with them. One gave me an 8% chance to have this Hydra spawn that would send fireballs to the enemies, or there was a weapon that would change my right click ability. Like normally with the sorceress you shoot 1 fireball, but with this weapon equipped you shoot 3 at the same time. Another legendary item let me instantly unlock a new rank for all the skills, while you otherwise have to be a required level to get the upgrades. And the build customization seems to be extremely deep, because we got all the abilities, like you can select one for a specific shortcut, and there are really a ton to choose from. We had a few in the demo, but there will be way more. We have a talent system where you can get passive bonuses like more movement speed or damage reduction while in the werebear form, for example. And that is in the case of the druid, for example, because the talents are different for each class. But the druid was by far my favorite. So you got two forms, Werebear that is more tanky and the Werewolf that is more attack focused with rapid slices, but the cool part is that you can very easily switch between them. In the demo you for example had this charge ability where you rush forward as a Werebear, but then the moment you attack you switch to being a Werewolf because you then attack faster. You remain in your regular form for different spells, like I could toss a boulder to the enemy or summon a Cataclysm Storm that also changes the weather, like there's a dynamic weather system in the game that will just trigger randomly and then make your character all wet, the enemies all wet, and have like these puddles appear. But as a druid you can like summon the rain thanks to the Cataclysm ability, and you will also be followed by companions. We could only have two wolves in the demo that you could also send onto one target, but there were also ravens and a fine creeper that could follow you around. The other two classes that are announced of the 5 that will be in the game at launch, and there should be more coming as DLC. Now the other two they talked about right now are the Barbarian and the Sorceress. And the Barbarian is really just an in-your-face, fast melee attack warrior. But this time around, he or she, and yes, you can actually customize your character in Diablo 4, like change their appearance, their hair, their skin color. It should be pretty deep, although we saw just a few options that you could go for. Anyway, going back to the Barbarian, because they can now equip 4 weapons at the same time, like you have 4 slots that you can easily switch between depending on your skills. So one time you are using this two-handed weapon, and then for another skill you have 2 maces in your hand all of a sudden. It's a really cool addition and makes the loot grind for the Barbarian extra interesting, of course, because yeah, you have way more slots. The Sorceress is more for ranged and control attacks with fire, ice and shock spells, really about the combos of freezing your target and then dropping a fireball on their head, for example. It's very satisfying. Overall, I was really impressed by the fluidness of the combat. Like immediately when you start playing, you think about all your different skills and all the combos you can do to maximize your damage output, or to make sure that the enemies stay far away from you, or how you can best push them back. So the combat was really action heavy, and they want to get you into that action really fast. And another way they want to do that is with attacks you can do from a mount. So yes, you can ride a horse in this game, although they could not really share a ton of details, only that we can customize our horse and like get armor for the horse that would reduce our damage on horseback, for example. But also that you don't always have to dismount, but can also do class specific skills that will immediately get you into the combat. I could not try this myself in the demo, but I was still surprised how well the demo was put together. Like, it even had a ton of text for skills and talents that we could not even unlock. Turns out though, and I realized this during an interview and a roundtable I visited, that while the demo is very polished, they really made this as a sort of proof of concept for BlizzCon, while the game itself is still very far off. Like during the unveil panel they mentioned that it's not even Blizzard soon.
This is a very, very early first step. We're not coming out soon, not even Blizzard soon. We're just excited to take this first early step in the journey together with you.
So that's at least 2 years of development time that is needed before we see the release, although I would not be surprised if it was even more than that. The game releases on PC, PS4 and Xbox One, so then you would think that the wait is not that long, because of course the next-gen consoles are coming out next year, but this could really be one of the final AAA games on the PS4 and Xbox One. By the way, good to note is that there will still be local play on the consoles, but it's now for 2 players instead of the 4 we had for Diablo 3. No word on a next-gen console release, by the way, although it's likely a safe bet that that will happen at one point. I think they will launch it at the same time, because when this game comes out in 2021 or 2022, then the new consoles are not that new anymore. So yeah, I think that that will happen, but they could not say anything about it yet. Of course, it's nothing new to announce the game and then launch it 2 or 3 years later, but I'm kinda used to games being revealed and then launching like 6 months after the reveal. So it's kind of sad to hear that Diablo 4 is still far away, but of course they want to make the best game possible, and from what I've played and heard, they really seem to be on the right track. 2022 can't come soon enough. Totally subscribe for more on Diablo 4. I will totally keep an eye out and keep you up to date when there's like more interesting news regarding the game. I think it will totally be a fun game to cover here on the channel when it finally releases, because again, I'm a fan of the series and it's great to finally see a more darker version again with still that same addictive gameplay. So I'm totally keeping an eye out. Let me know what you think of Diablo 4, of course, in the comments down below. What did you think of the reveal, or do you have any questions? Then I will totally answer them if I can. And for now, I will speak to you next time. Totally check out my previous videos that you see right here on the screen, and goodbye.